'Twas the night before the election, and all through the house every creature was stirring, except for the one between the ears of Joe Biden. Listen, there was no elegant way to finish that poem, but I co-opted it as best as I possibly could, because here we are. Tomorrow's the big day, and we can take a look at all of the polls that were coming out over the weekend. I've got a bit of a plan on how I want to tackle tomorrow's stuff, but all in due time. I'll make my announcements when it's appropriate towards the end of the video. But as of right now, we have one of the most accurate pollsters. We have Atlas Intel out here. Out of the big three, well, there's so many different polls, and we can go over those at a different time and date. But when it comes to the most accurate pollsters, there's pretty much a podium of opinions that, if you care about accuracy, lend an ear to them. You have Rasmussen, Emerson. They can be a little touch and go. They're definitely in the third place. But Atlas Intel, they were about the most accurate big name pollster that's out there. Shout out to Richard Barris and People's Pundit. I forget the name of his poll, but he's awfully accurate when it comes to this stuff as well. But Atlas Intel, being, if not the best, the second best, but at least the most accurate around 2020, when it's all said and done, they released what could be perceived as their final toss-up state, the swing state polling, and it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good for the red team. There's a reason I'm wearing red this week, and yeah, tomorrow we're really gonna drive it home. I don't want to jinx it and pull the MAGA cap out a little bit too early, but I just want to recap all the nonsense that went down over the weekend, because there were a few stories that popped up, right? But as quickly as they popped up, they were just as equally and quickly knocked down. So that's why I wanted to start with something that at least is rooted in reality, with North Carolina, which at this point in time, it's also like having Ohio as a Ohio as a swing state. I mean, it went for Trump for 9 points, and that's why you don't see it on here anymore. But North Carolina, 3.4 points. I mean, broke Trump in 2020 by 1 or 2. Like, it was pretty close. I think it was in between 1 and 2. Georgia at 2.5 kind of makes sense. Arizona at 6.5. I see that. That's the number that really hops off the page to me. Nevada fallen, 5.5. I mean, no tax on tips, and it's basically driven by a hustle economy in the Silver State. That does make sense, but Wisconsin at +1. Michigan at 1.5. That one's very, very, very interesting, given the fact that the final Trump rally, not just of this election cycle, but of President Trump's campaigning career, is going to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I think that there's some validity to that result. The fact that he's really trying to drive home that Michigan vote, and how vulnerable it is for a multitude of reasons. And then there's also, the 1.8 in Pennsylvania, the state where the man took a bullet to the head. There's a reason that today Kamala's going to be spending the entire day, 4 separate stops in Pennsylvania. By far and away, her busiest day is all going to be across that great state, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I do believe it's supposed to conclude in Allentown, alongside, of all people, Lady Gaga. It's interesting, because I would imagine she was probably hoping to bring Lady Gaga on stage after a triumphant theatrical run of Joker 2, but I don't really think that's going to get referenced all that much. Well, outside of the obvious jokes that Kamala cackles like Arthur Fleck. Hopefully there's not too many allusions to a certain shower scene towards the end of that film, just for her sake on stage. But, well, that's one set of polls that came out late on Sunday. There was another poll that made the rounds, I think Saturday or something like that, but I didn't see it till Sunday. I took vast majority of Saturday off. I haven't been in a good way for a while, so I'm just trying to limp my way to the finish line on this one. But I can guarantee if I would have seen this result, I would have seen this poll where out of nowhere, there was one outlier poll that dropped that said that Kamala Harris was up in Iowa, of all places. In Iowa by not 1, not 2, but 3 points. A state that Trump won by, I think, an even bigger margin. I think he won that by 9.8 points. In 2020, there was somehow this massive flip in the state, and it's like, no, I don't believe you at all. There is no reason, there is no momentum there for me to believe that that is logical to happen. Okay. But as it says here, yes, as the election approaches, dozens of opinion polls of American voters are churned out each day. None so eagerly awaited as the final Des Moines Register Mediacon poll of Iowa produced by Seltzer and Company, a polling firm on election Twitter. The colloquial name for community polling data junkies. The evening of November 2nd show Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump in Iowa, sending election Twitter into a frenzy. Seltzer, yes, a high quality pollster rather, is rated as one of the best in the country by 538, which is, okay, you've got already so many layers of idiocy, but all right. Data journalism outfit that tracks polling accuracy. The Seltzer poll is recognized for its success in projecting the Iowa caucus. Oh, the one that Kamala couldn't even make it to back in 2020 when she was running for president? That's interesting. The early test, that has been a staging ground for presidential nominees past 5 elections. The final Iowa poll by Seltzer and Company have averaged an absolute error of 3.1 percentage points. That's not great. That's really not great. Just about 1 standard deviation? Bro, you're not good at your job. They predicted the results in Iowa correctly in 4 out of 5 times. An impressive record. Not really. But the most surprising thing about this record is that Seltzer polls perform better in some states other than Iowa, where it is responded to live. But its methodology is absolutely flawed. Everybody took a look at that again and laughed it out of the building, justifiably so, because it's silly. It's silly. You take a look at the health of both of the campaigns right now, and there are multiple videos from both sides of the divide, making the rounds right now, and you see the thousands and thousands of people lined up to get into a Trump rally. And then you see Kamala Harris have to drag and pay anybody that she can get from Diddy's, her little black book out there. But even the establishment hacks that are out there, well, they're having a tough time, because you might have also seen that Barack Obama is very much in full campaign mode out there on the stump, pulling the race card, pulling the victimhood card in order to guilt people into voting for Kamala. Don't really think that's going to work. Or sending Big Mike out there looking as haggardly as possible. And then they got old Uncle Joe out there in my hometown. I'm in my home state of Pennsylvania. And well, he had this to say, which, you thought that the garbage line was pretty bad. You thought the we need to lock him up line was pretty bad. But bro, I think this one right here, This is a great soundbite, and there's a reason that they're sticking them up in places like New Hampshire or confined to the Oval Office. It's like, just keep Joe off the campaign trail. Weird. The same strategy that they pulled back in 2020, where he got 81 million votes. Does this sound like somebody who is of enough sound mind and body to accrue that many? I can't wait. I cannot wait to see the final vote totals, just to see how absolutely astroturfed 2020 was. But let's see what Biden had to say about the situation. What he really thinks about Trump supporters, because that garbage line is taken out of context. Don't worry about it. He instead,
these are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass. But I'm serious. These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass. But
he wants to smack in the ass. He wants to look at Republicans. He wants to look at Trump supporters, and he wants to smack them in the ass. Like, what? Okay, that's clearly a Biden moment, right? Like, he normally doesn't like to go for the older crowd. He would normally be making those comments about the children of Republicans and what he'd like to do with them. But I would imagine we'll be hearing from Joe here later today. So, nice way to end your political career there, Joe. I look forward to hearing you bitching, moaning, whining, and complaining between now and during the transition, and then, of course, giving the old handoff there, January 20th or 21st. That day can't come soon enough, because it's going to be getting crazy afterwards, but not as crazy as Chloe Grace Moretz announces that, she's endorsing Kamala Harris, and I'm gay. What? The government has no right over my body, and as Kangman Lee has pointed out, announces she's gay, worried about getting pregnant. This is how Democrat support is basically boiled down to: look at my identity, and I want to get out of jail free card for my poor reproductive choices. It's a campaign of stupidity and whores. That is what the Democrats are. Like, I have racked my mind. I'm trying to I'm trying to figure this out, okay? Because last election cycle, when I was talking about this, I came up with a list, an actual earnest list of the 5 reasons that you could vote for Joe Biden. If you're a Democrat, if you thought that you didn't like Trump, you didn't like what you seen, if you were just simply even an undecided voter willing to assess the situation from both sides. And yeah, I could see a case for voting for Joe Biden. This time around, though, outside of pure emotionalism, I legitimately don't see a rational, logical reason to vote for this. And this is basically what's happened, bro. It's a campaign of lies and subterfuge, which is what was called out and promptly put on blast for happening. Yes, with SNL, who bravely and boldly said that they wouldn't have either president on this. We were just simply going to take the nuanced approach of attacking both sides this election story until the last Saturday before the election. And yeah, Kamala Harris was just going to make a small little appearance out there. What could possibly go wrong? FCC Commissioner blasts Harris's SNL appearance as a clear and blatant effort to evade equal time rule. Yep, she didn't have enough time to stop by Joe Rogan, and as Charlemagne the God idiotically put out, that's a lot of time for her to dedicate to, stop by Austin, Texas, even though on the day or within the week where she approached Rogan for doing an interview, she was in both Houston and in San Antonio. And given the fact that she can travel on the taxpayer dollar, what's a stopover in Austin, really? But no, she gave herself ample amount of time to prepare for this media stunt, and still, she didn't come out looking better, because anybody watching SNL at this point in time, both of them that are out there, they were already going to be voting for Harris anyways, and even if they didn't get out to the polls, they probably would have already voted. The Republican commissioner on the FCC blasted Vice President Kamala Harris's Saturday Night Live debut as a clear and blatant effort to evade the equal time rule. Brendan Carr stressed that the FCC's equal time requirements mandate opposing candidates to get the same airtime, and alleged that NBC structured this appearance in a way to evade these requirements by timing it so close to the election. And yet, no, that's exactly what they did out there. Yes, this is a clear and blatant effort to evade the FCC's equal time rule. The purpose of the rule is to avoid this exactly this type of biased and partisan conduct. Well, it's NBC, it's SNL. I mean, how could you not expect that? A licensed broadcaster using the public airwaves to exert its influence for one candidate on the eve of the election. Yeah, we know they're desperate. We absolutely know they're desperate. But you would think, right? Like, they've been planning this stunt for a while. They were just trying to see if they could rope the vice president into such a blatantly illegal move. I guess they were too focused on the logistics of the situation to figure out if they should even bother with a unique skit, because as it's pointed out that, yeah, man, Kamala spent 3 hours rehearsing for this cringe fest on SNL and then copied a Trump skit from 2015 from SNL. Like, holy shit, man. But instead of holding her feet to the fire, okay, because that should be a fine. That should be a fine against the Harris campaign, because they blatantly broke the law. And hell, she's the vice president. She should theoretically know better. But what was the way of leveling the playing field? NBC airs Donald Trump spot during NASCAR coverage after FCC equal time complaints. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. Kamala got to proselytize to her masses, and I think that airing a Donald Trump spot to a markedly larger audience is a equal and honest way of doing things. It kind of seems, it's like, okay, because you could see that as a W, because yeah, your average NASCAR race is vastly going to outstrip Saturday Night Live. What, just a rare based move by NBC? No, I don't think so. I think this would just be another log on the fire that they're trying to stoke in the aftermath of this election. More on that in a minute, because I think that it's a little bit more important to figure out what exactly Kamala is doing when she's not skirting FCC and campaign violations. She's bringing more whores on stage that just expose how absolutely vacuous and paid off they are, because you have Cardi B. Now, I'm not going to play this speech, also because we heard this idiot talk before and we know that we're not missing out on any witty insight. But the caption does the trick. Cardi B's teleprompter was broken and she had no idea what to do for over a minute until somebody ran on stage to give her a phone to read off of. Yeah, exactly. She is so steadfast in her support for Kamala Harris that she has to be fed exactly what to say. She couldn't have a Trump situation, whereas I don't even like these teleprompters. They're broke. They don't work anymore. And then he disassembles one on stage and completely freeballs his speech. No, you have this former stripper, this degenerate hosebag, come on stage and expose how much he is still in the business of prostitution by collecting a check to endorse somebody she doesn't give a single shit about. Or perhaps she's in the same boat as Jennifer Lopez, saying that you need to go ahead and vote for somebody who's going to lead this country to a better place. Somebody who is shown to have such a great exercise such a great decision making. When it comes to choosing a leader, she has been divorced how many times? And oh yeah, was the former girlfriend of Diddy. And yeah, that's just a couple of examples, because we have the never-ending screeching of Mark Hamill, further ruining the legacy of Star Wars. And oh yeah, recently, I think that was just within the past couple of days, Harrison Ford, who legendarily, I don't care about literally anything, comes out and says that this is the most important election ever and we need to vote for Kamala Harris. I have one election left and one vote to give, and it's for Kamala Harris. It's like, holy crap, that last plane crash really rattled a few things loose. But perhaps he's just trying to ingratiate himself to his new cast of characters because, oh my god, I think this dropped on Friday, right? The big not Avengers assemble, because, okay, you take a look at that panel. Scarlett Johansson, dead, and wants nothing to do with Disney. Well, her character's dead. She's not, just her credibility. Mark Ruffalo, I mean, if you think that there's anybody worse than Mark Hamill on Twitter, Mark Ruffalo is definitely giving him a run for his money. Chris Evans, not a movie star, has nothing better to do. Oh, Robert Downey Jr., when he's not self-flagellating over being a recovering white American, whatever that means. Don Cheadle, oh yeah, who's been a Skrull since Civil War. Paul Bettany, who's, I don't even know if he has U.S. citizenship, but he's very much from the U.K. And been reliably informed that Denia is Wakandan, so how isn't this government interference? Isn't this election interference? Like, what are we doing out here? But yeah, it's also equally cringe where they all come together. They all come together, brother. Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, lady, Don Cheadle, and the rest of them have endorsed Kamala Harris to the surprise of nobody and changing precisely nobody's mind, but, you know, pointing out that, problematic, Pratt is missing. Yeah, arguably, outside of RDJ, which can't take anything away from the man's talent, you know, it's in spades at this point, but Chris Pratt actually has multiple projects and multiple franchises, multiple billion-dollar movies under his belt that has nothing to do with Marvel, Super Mario Brothers, and for whatever, you know, the quality's missing, but definitely not the finances when it comes to the Jurassic World movies. And people like the Tomorrow War, unlike anything that you can say when it comes to Chris Evans. And because we're trying to be multicultural and from around the world, where's Chris Hemsworth? I found that to be a little interesting as well. You could get not Captain America, outdated model, but you couldn't get actual Thor, who's theoretically still an Avenger. Interesting. But yeah, at this point in time, bro, you can sense the desperation on one side and compare and contrast that with the fun, laid back, enjoyable demeanor of the other, because here you have, okay, and I don't really think, once again, that Danica Patrick, who has been known to be a diva on the race car track, I don't think that she's swaying anybody. But also, when she's dunking on all of those people coming out for Kamala Harris after the check clears, she says, you literally get 6 presidents when you pick him. You get Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk. I'm not paid to be here. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't need a telephone. I never went to a Diddy party. I'm doing this because I love this country. And there's nobody that's been tested more than Donald Trump showing his love of this country. Oh, kind of saying the quiet part out loud. Kind of saying the reason why so many of those pathetic celebrities are coming out and vacuously endorsing somebody who is equally, if not more vacuous in Kamala Harris, it's because they know that there are skeletons in those closets. And the people can see, as Andrew Tate has surmised, that forget the president, look at the backup. It's Elon Musk, Vivek, Ron Paul, who is getting on board with Elon and his proposed Department of Government Efficiency. I mean, can we get a wellness check on recovering libertarians out there? Because, bro, your boy's back on side in J.D. Vance versus Usher, who, very interestingly, a couple months back, prior to Diddy getting snatched up, he was out there saying, okay, he was on The View. I do believe he was on The View, and he was posited the question about who he's going to vote for, and he gave a fairly nuanced take that, whoever's better for your life, if you want to come to that conclusion, make your own decision. And then very recently came out and at a performance or something like that, somebody yells from the crowd, I'm sure very organically, "I love you," and then he responds back, "Yeah, I love you too, but not as much as I love Kamala Harris." Like, oh, okay, cool. Somebody who's so closely linked to Diddy. Same with Cardi B, Beyonce. Entirely sure of the relationship with LeBron James, but we all know that these billionaires on one side of the aisle, hell, all sides of the aisle. I'll throw Trump into that equation as well. He has had to beat the accusations when it comes to Epstein for a very long time, because they were at parties together. They have pictures taken together. Very few other ones that have been AI generated to make idiots do a second take. But they know, the Kamala support staff, they know that if and when Trump wins, God willing, their time is up. The JFK files aren't going to be the only thing that sees the light of day. Perhaps the Epstein stuff, and perhaps what's really going on with Diddy. That would be very interesting for the world to see, just how corrupt the entertainment industrial complex truly is, just to expose all of those shills that have seemingly created an axe to grind with Trump. The real people behind the demonization and division in this country finally getting their comeuppance. It'll be glorious to see, and hopefully over the next 4 years we will be checking in with that stuff, but we gotta get past tomorrow and the insanity that is going to unfold then. And well, I had ideas how I wanted to tackle the day, and potentially, right, like even right now, honestly, I can keep it together for videos and stuff like that, but I've been really sick these past couple of months. That's fine, I can basically get through it, and I've been wanting to stream more, but it just really hasn't panned out. Light sensitivity, nausea, in between videos, I gotta sit down for a considerable amount of time, but I don't want to turn this into a, oh, woe is me situation, but I want to get past tomorrow, mostly because this is big, and a Trump victory means not just a victory for the United States, but a victory for the world, and as myself and an Albertan, born and raised, Trump victory is going to have incredible knock-on effects, and not just for where I live, but for all of America's close trade partners. So to see that through and to make sure everything's on the up and up first thing in the morning, and taking a look at the final polls, especially those last couple of rallies, to see how crazy everything went, I'm either going to do, and this is the backup plan if I can't get through it, but do a video and just recount all of that stuff, or potentially earlier in the day, in and around the time that I would normally release the second or third video or something like that, maybe going live for like an hour and a half, and probably like half hour to an hour or something like that. Like that could be real fun. We go over all of that stuff if you guys would be down with that. I'll let you know tomorrow, or yeah, probably tomorrow morning, something like that, if everything's going to end up lining up. I think that could be fun. That could be a really great lead-in, because I don't want to stream over any one of the big reaction channels or the big news shows that you guys are probably already gearing up to watch, and you have plans to do that. I don't want to step over any of that stuff. Like I know Crowder is going to have an enormous show. There are multiple other channels that are going to be live for a very long time, doing far more in-depth coverage, and frankly, I want to bounce between a few of them myself. I just want to set everything up on the day, and instead of just doing a pre-released video and dropping it sometime, hey, if I get a chance to interact with you guys on the day on something that I think has been incredibly important, a day that I've been looking forward to for a very long time, I'm going to be taking advantage of that. So stay tuned on that one. I'm going to be doing some kind of coverage in some form or fashion. So yeah, like a 90% chance I'll go live, because I think that'll be important, because, oh boy, the aftermath of that, and I kind of think, especially the way that these polls are going, we might get an answer on the day, and then we go live in the aftermath just to laugh at all of the memes on Wednesday. But we'll see what we get to at that point in time, because as it sits at this very moment, we're heading for something spectacular. And because that ends up being the case, I'm pretty sure that these next couple of months, all the way up until inauguration, it's going to get even more insane. Riots, meltdowns, and in some of my deepest, darkest thoughts, without saying what I'm thinking, because I don't want to put that out into the world, I'm just hoping that Trump's security gets ratcheted up immensely, because the way that they've worked a lot of these freaks into a fervor, I don't see the temperature cooling down a bit, especially how unhinged Kamala and her friends are going to be getting in the aftermath. You already see Jamie Raskin planting the seeds that he's going to be contesting on January 6th. It's going to be funny to see what they do and try to paint it as a different situation when they take stuff far more seriously and far more violently than anything that happened in 2020. We're going to be in for quite a conclusion to 2024. So I hope you're all going to be with me on that one. And yeah, maybe we'll see you tomorrow. And if not, make sure that you went out there and voted early if that was your choice. And then on the day, make sure that your vote did count. Make sure that your voice was heard so that we can all make sure that we can make America great again. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.